Hello and welcome back to another Space Engineers showcase video. In today's video we're looking at another modded tank, because we haven't looked at one for a while. So we're looking at the AVT1125 Thunderer MBT, which is this lovely thing right here. It has some great use of the new hinge block, and it uses a bunch of different mods to give it that impressive look and functionality. So what we're going to do is have a quick look at its little spawn menu, at its costs and all that. Then we'll go around the outside, have a little play around with all the opening and closing of all the little hatches, and then we'll test out its cannons. So finding the AVT in the spawn menu, this thing is 781 small blocks, requiring the decorative block number 2 DLC pack. We see there is a lot of stuff going on with this, scripts and mods galore. So let's come all the way around to the front and go around the outside. Now it's going to be very brief because a lot of these are modded blocks, so I won't be able to recognize most of them off the bat. So at the very front here we can see we got some modded wheels, which are just there to make it look more tanky. We've got some LCD screens which are pretending to be our lights, as well as some modded armored plating blocks which are being held up by a hinge. If I come in there, there's our little hinge to make it angled. Just above there we can see this little block which is going to be one of our cameras in order to drive this tank. And we can see a bloody great barrel coming all the way across over there. As we move around the side, let me just move that character out of the way. There we go. We'll come around this side because the sunlight's on this side. We'll just see lots and lots of these armored modded plates which just cover up the main body of our tank. We can see our traditional wheels there all lined up all together there. We could, if we wanted to, take the tank track mod and just overlay it on top of this to make it look even better, but that's entirely up to you. Yes, on the side there, in fact, I'll come back to the very top of the little tank part a bit later. We'll just come around here where we've got some more fancy armored blocks. We've got some grates which come all the way around to the back where we've got 2 little oil barrels, some more LCD screens displaying our fake little lights, and some more little grate blocks. Just below there we see we've got an adorable little shovel there, so if you ever get stuck you can dig yourself out, and we've got a unfinished connector block right there. If you were just to come up and above here past our oil barrels, we have got a modded hydrogen engine right there. It's a very interesting thing. It looks very much like what I would consider a futuristic nuclear reactor. Yes, it just sits in the middle here, surrounded by batteries, and the access point is right there. Come around to here, this is our main little cannon part, which I don't actually know the name of, what the proper term for it is. But we have got a 50 cal machine gun that sits on top of a hatch, which does open up if we were to press the button behind it. It sits right there, we can fully aim it with a camera, and we have multiple different ammo types for all the different occasions of shooting. We've got 2 mortars that sit on the side there. Yes, we got 2 things which shoot an extraordinary range on them. I was quite shocked to see how far these things would go. They don't do that big of an explosion, but you can just bombard a base from an obscene distance. And then of course we've got a little camera that sits on the side that allows us to help aim this entire turret. Then around to here, we've got another camera to help us aim forwards, a third camera which will then go across onto an LCD screen. The LCD screen will then display a bunch of little information and act as a detailed crosshair for when you fire the big cannon. The big cannon itself has multiple different ammo types, like the machine gun that we talked about earlier. We've got high explosive rounds, we've got armor piercing rounds, and a bunch of other ones which I'm not too sure what they stand for, but they make a pretty color when they hit stuff. And as for the rest of this top part, we've got our other mortar that sits on the side there. Then got this little scanner thing right here. Then behind it, we've got a hatch. So there's the hatch which the machine gun is sitting on, and we've got another hatch in front of it. And these, right behind it, are buttons to open them up. So we can just get inside into our seat, and we'll be nice and protected. All the way around to here on this side, we do have a button, which will then be to open up this little hatch right here. So that will open up and allow you to get a driver in and out. There is a little bit of an issue depending on where the barrel of the cannon is, whether you can get into it or not, because it tends to block it up, but it's generally okay to get in and out, even if it is a bit fiddly without the crosshair on. Yes, there's the camera we saw earlier, which is how we're going to drive it. And overall, It's a bloody fantastic design, and it gets even better when I get into my character, because now we can push all the buttons and see what they can do. Coming around to here, we're going to press this button, which will then open up our little hatch and allow us to peer inside. So if I get the free camera back once again, and we'll just dump it through here. There we go. We can now go inside where we have a fancy little seat with a little circular on it. We can see some reactors in there turning all the way around. There's not too much going on because we would need to use our character to get into the seat. There we go. And when we bring up the HUD, we'll have a few options to play around with. If I look up and press number 8, we'll close the hatch up, sealing us in eternal darkness. But we do have a fancy little camera, which we can press 1. It's a little bit awkward. The cameras are a little bit buggy. I'm going to come out of that before I give someone an epileptic fit and go back into it, and hopefully that'll be fine. Yeah, as I was saying, the cameras can be a little bit buggy. They seem to have a lot of graphical effects, and yeah, I'm just not going to touch that camera again. But that camera would be how we drive it. We can press P to undo our parking brakes, and we can just drive around here, and we will hear some horrible clanging sounds, but it's perfectly fine. Let's just come and turn ourselves all the way around here. We'll hear a lot more clanking sounds, which, I mean, it does sort of suit a tank, doesn't it? Hearing all the little clanks and clunks. And I'll just hop out there. The final button there was for the spotlights, but we don't need to play around with that. They're just simple spotlights. Now we get to even more fun stuff. Yes, we can come and press either this one or this one, and we'll open up the hatches to let us go inside. The gun doesn't look too safe when it opens up like that, but never mind, it's still perfectly fine in terms of space engine it is. Now both these seats are identical with what they do. They can both fire the main cannon, they can both fire the mortars, and they can both access the 50 cal machine gun right there and blast your enemies. So what I'm going to do is just come over to here and close that up, and we'll get into this seat right here. So getting inside and looking around, this is what we get. We've got a bunch of programmable blocks here, an LCD screen in front of us, telling us our speed, our power and fuel, and on the opposite side there we can see whether our brakes are active and all that. Perhaps I should get into the other seat so you can see what's going on there. So there we are, we can see the lights, the brakes, the reverse and the turn. Now those little arrows will in fact glow when we try and reverse, go left and right and all that. And then on our very right we've got another programmable block there, which is telling us the script, which is vehicle light control. There we are, it's just going to keep updating and doing its thing. So getting into this hatch right here, let's go and play around with what this thing has to offer. So like our driver's seat, we can press 8 to close ourselves in and be nice and protected. We've got a few little things to play around with. So number 1 will be to view our camera, which is sitting just behind our LCD screen that I talked about earlier. And the LCD screen will be showing us a bunch of very important information, such as a scanner, and a bunch of other helpful stuff to see where we're aiming and our rotation and all that. So let's just aim around here. It's all mouse control, so up and down will control the barrel, left and right will turn it around. So coming out of there is now time to fire the main cannon, yes. Number 3 is going to be to change our ammo type. So we're currently on our heat F5, I think that's what it says. Then we go to standard missile, then we've got the APD5. We've got APT F5D, whatever they mean, but they make pretty colours when you fire them. So we can press number 2 to make sure the cannon is switched on. If it's switched off, it will not fire when you click the mouse. So we switch that on, left mouse button, and we get a lovely green shot. We then get a small little update on the right hand side of our screen, telling us we're reloading, and we get a lovely little sound effect to go along with it. So let's switch over to the heat F5, I think it's F5, it might be in FS, I can't really see the screen properly, but we'll have to wait for it to reload, and then we can fire and get a glorious red shot. Yes, there's quite a few ammunition to go through, but I won't go through all of them. I'd recommend just downloading and playing around with yourself. Anyway, number 4 will be for our spotlights on and off, but we can simply ignore that. Number 5 will be the script that controls the automatic reload of our cannon, so if we don't want it to automatically reload, we can simply press that and turn it off. Number 6 is going to be for our mortars. Yes, we simply press it, and we fire the mortars. They go quite some distance, and they can be spammed just a bit there. We do get a little update on the right hand side of our screen. Not too sure what that means, but we just keep firing them along. Using the free camera, let's go and chase these. And we can see it goes a bloody long distance. We're all the way over here. I'm somewhere in that. In fact, we're like 3.3 kilometers away, and they're all just charging into this mountainside. Absolutely insane distance on these. Guess just come back around to here and plop my camera back down. We then have number 7, which would then be to look around here on our tiny little camera that sits just to the left hand side of our camera and LCD screen, so we can get a good view all the way around at the black hole still up there spinning around. Then coming out of that, we then have number 8, which is the hatch opening and closing. And then we have number 9, which is to take control of our machine gun that sits just on top. But before we do that, we're going to switch off our main cannon, because we will need to use our left mouse button to fire. If you leave that turned on, then they'll both fire together. So pressing number 9 and coming into first person view, going to number 3, this is what we get. We can just move around there. Got a lovely little screen on there telling us everything we need to know about what's going on. We then switch on the gun and left mouse fire to fire a very shaky machine gun. Like our main cannon, we can change our ammunition to a lovely white, to a lovely green, to a lovely orangey yellowy colour, and then again to the white. If I was to come into the third person camera and then fire it once again, this is what we're getting. Oh, looks like we have to reload. There we go, we now fire. Switching over to the AP1, then going over to the AP Rang, and then we got background again. So there we go, that is how that works, and it's a nice little neat thing. Then come out of that and come out of the remote control block, we can come across to tab number 2, where we can control our mortars. Yes, there's a hidden little control to change the ammunition type on the mortars from high explosive rounds to whatever SM it is to armor piercing rounds. So let's go with high explosive rounds, because who doesn't like a big explosion? Let's fire them. In fact, let's fire a bunch of them all together. So there we go. Then chase it with a free camera. Oh, that's cool. We got a little sound effect to go along with it. I didn't notice that before during my testing. That is adorable. But here they come. Glorious stuff. Not that big of an explosion. And the last one is the SM, which I've finally figured out what that means. It is a smoky mist. I think that's what it's supposed to be. But anyway, it's that stuff that you fire when you need to hide yourself from the enemy tanks and make sure that you can back away safely. Make sure they can't blast you if you need to repair yourself or stuff like that. Now, firing these all together is crippling the frame rate. Look at that go. I think I'm down to about 17 frames per second, but that's not going to stop me from firing more. No. Yes, that is what it looks like. Forget the free camera and come all the way through that. Oh my god, it's like going through a bowl of like mushy peas and stuff. And now we have gone to the lights and we can no longer see anything. Luckily, it is starting to disappear now and my computer is catching up. But that is pretty much it for this tank. The only thing I can think of doing now is giving you a little demonstration of the types of damage this tank can do. So, firing the tank when it's reloaded. There we go, that's a very slow going missile, and it looks like we did a teeny tiny bit of damage to this. Nothing too much, oh, but we did disconnect, or not, oh god, oh god. Let's just pretend that rotor is not there and hopefully it won't do anything bad. Yes, we'll switch over to the APD, and we're going to aim roughly over there. Firing when it's reloaded. There we go, we now fired into that. What kind of damage have we done? Not too much. Let's now switch ourselves over to this one, and we'll aim, let's just aim over to there. Can't be too bad. Firing. That looked like it did a solid hit on it, but all we did was remove a few little blocks, very small explosion radius on that. And then last but not least, I don't think we've done this one, the heat. So let's go and fire it over there. That sounded like it did a good amount of damage. Yes, it did. Nothing too overkill. It's very well balanced, this. But now, what we can do is take remote control by turning that off. Coming into number 9. Let's take you and turn you on. We're going to fire you with the AP rounds. Doesn't seem to be doing too much damage. So let's switch over to this one. I really don't know if that's actually doing anything to it. So I'm firing straight into it. Oh yes, it is. It is doing a little bit of damage to it. Let's now go to this one. Oh, that is doing a perfect job there. Oof. Well, I think Lord Clang has dictated that that rotor is going to space. Yes, back to what I was doing, just blindly shooting this. We can go back to this one if we want to. There we are, that's doing a nice bit of damage. So yeah, these guns seem to be relatively well balanced all the way over. So testing out the mortar, let's go and fire that. So that is the, I believe that was the AP rounds. It was the AP rounds, just launching into it and just not doing too much damage. There we go, it took 3 rounds to destroy that block. I will double check straight after this if this is heavy armor or not. But let's now go to the high explosive rounds and launch that in there. That looked like it did some damage. Firing into there. Firing to there. Yeah, it doesn't really seem to be that overkill. So coming out to this and making sure that that wasn't heavy armor. Half light armored blocks, nope. There we are. So it does damage, but it's not completely overkill. It's not going to rip something to shreds. It's a very well balanced mod that's been used with this tank. And if you wish to download and play around with this tank yourself, there'll be a link to it in the description below. But as for that, that is it, and I thank you all for watching. I will be back with another video some point soon. Bye bye.